Welcome to the Ben Buzz. I'm Benny King, and you're listening to Hawkeye State of Mind. Now, the Hawkeyes just had a huge victory over Minnesota. I mean, huge is such an understatement. I mean, what I'm about to get into today is insanity. I don't know. It's another thing with the Wisconsin game where I'm just like, I didn't know we were capable of this. And it's not just that, we should have won or, whatever it is like that. It's just like, I thought we were the better team going in. Like, I really did in both of those matchups. But the way we played, the way we showed out, and the way we just absolutely dominated in both of those contests, I mean, there's some buzz in Iowa City. And don't look now, but Iowa is 4th in the Big Ten, and there's a legit path to the playoff. That's crazy to be at this point in the season still say that there's a path for our Iowa Hawkeyes. It's awesome. And, I mean, this game blew out Minnesota at home 41-3. Now, you're going to have to put on your glasses for this. No, it is 41-3. Surprising. I'm honestly so starstruck by this. I'm incredibly happy that our team is capable of this. I mean, it's a little sad because it's like Minnesota, geez. But, I always like beating Minnesota. But like this, it's another thing with Wisconsin where it's just like, maybe you don't say that they're like really great rivalries in terms of what we play, but it's just like, you'd think they'd be a little closer. I mean, they were 5-2. I think that's what's surprising about this is Minnesota wasn't some bottom feeder. We weren't playing like a slight dig here. We weren't playing Purdue, we weren't because Minnesota was 5-2, and last week they were playing Nebraska. Nebraska was ranked actually, and Minnesota blew them out, absolutely embarrassed them. So coming into this, it was like, man, that was such a performance by them, and we're both 5-2. You kind of worry about it, but then Minnesota just didn't show up. Point blank, they did not show up. They kicked a sad field goal in the third. Really, really sad. It's like this insane beatdown. Mark Gronowski, he had a solid day. I mean, he went 12 for 19, 135 yards and a touchdown. A big reason is he didn't have to do much at all. Like the whole second half, he didn't really have to do much. We had 31 of our points, like really early into the second quarter. That Iowa. Oh my gosh. And Kamari Moulton had another solid day, 15 carries, 75 yards. And what I was hoping is that we got Caden Weegan more involved on offense. That was huge. And he had a rush. He did a carry for 8 yards, but he was great in the receiving game. He actually was our leading receiver. 3 catches, 49 yards. Weegan was pretty solid. And he also had a return touchdown on a punt. And we had a pick six from Zach Lutmer. It's like everything was clicking. We dominated in every single phase of the game. It's like, oh my goodness. Mark Gronowski, he ran 9 times for 24 yards and a touchdown. If you think some of these stats are a little low or you think they're not as impressive, that's because a lot of them really didn't have to do much because the game was already over. It was already over. Oh my gosh. And Williams, he got back in the lineup last week, and then this week he didn't have as great of a day. He went 4 for 4. And Moulton is really taking that starting job. He had 15 carries, 75 yards. And then Patterson got back in the lineup. He messed up his ankle a little bit in Rutgers, and we hadn't seen him since, and that was weeks ago. Saw him a little bit today. He ran 5 times, 18 yards. And Jeremy Heklinski got a carry for 6 yards. Didn't end up seeing McNeil. That's a bummer. But receiving, Vander Zee was another guy that we weren't sure if he was going to play, and he ends up catching a 30-yard bomb from Gronowski. That's right, a 30-yard touchdown. We did that. A passing touchdown, by the way. It wasn't like a run, go, great blocking. Oh, that's great Iowa play. Oh, great blocking, man. What a great Iowa win, run the ball. It's like, no. It was a 30-yard touchdown throw from our Iowa Hawkeyes. I mean, I'm honestly so excited about this. I mean, like, look at the scoreboard. 41 points. 41 points is insane. And I know it's a little inflated from the pick six from Lutmer and then the punt return from Weegan, but it's like, it's not our fault that we dominate in every single phase. I mean, oh my goodness. I mean, it's honestly so stunning. And you talk about 17 points in the first quarter. 17 points. And then 14 in the second quarter. And we didn't score much throughout the rest of the game. But, I mean, the game was already over. I think that's what's so crazy is we don't beat teams like this. We'll give you a heart attack. We'll wait until the last moment. Good defense, run the ball. And then eventually maybe we win by a field goal or we lose by a field goal or whatever the case may be. But it's just like, we don't do this to teams often, or maybe this team is just different because we did the same thing to Wisconsin. And I know Wisconsin's been bad, but Wisconsin wasn't atrocious against Oregon this past week. It's just like, not that they're good. I'm not trying to say that they're good, but it's just like, well, hold on now. Maybe what we did was more impressive than we thought. So it's like, man, it's honestly crazy. I mean, I don't even looking at this scoreboard and watching the game, I could not believe my eyes, and I'm so glad that it happened. And honestly, Iowa 6-2 at this point in the year is huge, and we have a legit path to get to the playoff. I know that's a little crazy to say, but it's not that out of the question. I think that's the craziest part. It's just like we could end up weaseling our way into it. We legitimately could. So honestly, it's so surprising. I mean, guys on our defense were so huge. I mean, Xavier Nwankpa is a really great leader on that defense. He's really good. And then Zach Lutmer, he got the pick 6. What great plays he was able to make. It's like across the board. And we have another Epinesa on our team. It's huge. We had years ago AJ Epinesa, and I believe he's on the Bills currently. He's been doing good for them. And then, like, honestly, I mean, just across the board, we've just got so many great players on this team. And I mean, you don't even get me started on the great players that we had on all phases. You can't. It's not even like, yeah, our offense didn't play well, but, the running backs are pretty good, or, the defense did good, or, we got a punt return that was better our scoring. He did pretty good. It's like, no, everybody played so well in this game. It's honestly so crazy. Gronowski had 2 touchdowns, and then if you look, his total yards isn't going to be that great because he only did it in like a quarter and a half, and then after that, I mean, we had already won the game. Like, it doesn't make any sense. We don't do this. It's honestly crazy. It's like, man, it's honestly so crazy looking at this box score and being like, man, we did this. And I think it's just different when it's your team doing it. Like, when you look at Indiana and what they're doing, you're like, man, that's awesome. Man, that's good for them. But it's just, you don't realize how improbable those types of things are until it's your team doing it. It's like you think about Indiana, they had 2 wins, and then Cignetti comes in and then all of a sudden completely turns the team around. Like, imagine being a fan of that team and actually experiencing that. That's how this type of thing feels, where it's like you see Indiana blowing out UCLA, and you're like, man, the Indiana team's good, man. You think about it like that, but then when it's your own team, you start to be like, oh my goodness. Like, it honestly is like a thing where I didn't realize this is what we were capable of. And it's nothing against us, obviously. I mean, I love us, which maybe that's why, because I'm a fan, so maybe I'm more critical because I've watched just about every game. Anytime I can, I'm always watching the Hawkeye game. So, man, and we're 4-1 in the Big Ten. That's what's huge, because our one loss out of conference was Iowa State, and then our one loss in conference was Indiana. And we were close with Indiana, closer than anybody else has come. And now Indiana, they are sitting atop of the Big Ten, but simply Ohio State had a bye, so those two are really going to be neck and neck. But it's like, don't look now. Like I said earlier, don't look now, but you start to look at it, and Iowa has a legit path. Because you look at that, we're number 4. Honestly, that's such a crazy thing to say. We're number 4 in the Big Ten. And it's crazy to think, because if there were still divisions, we'd probably be in it, no question. But we got to weasel our way into the top 2. So how do we do that? So Oregon's right above us. We play them at home in a few weeks. We both get a bye, and then we come in. We'll be 6-2. They'll be 7-1. Both 4-1 in conference, though. That's what matters. So if we beat Oregon, we jump them. Now we're in the top 3. Then if all of a sudden, if Indiana or Ohio State slips up and we don't, all of a sudden we're in Indianapolis playing for the Big Ten championship. Isn't that insane? So insane. And honestly, I think across like the SEC and the Big Ten championships, if you make it to your championship game, you are going to be in. So if we weasel our way in there, chances are we're in there, which is crazy to think about. It's crazy that it's actually possible, and we're already through 8 games. I think that's what's the craziest thing, is usually our playoff hopes get kind of killed earlier, like, oh man, there it goes, but it's just like, they're still kind of alive. I'm honestly so shocked that it is. And Minnesota, I mean, what do you say? I mean, 3 interceptions, and they still won 5 games this year. They only need 1 more to get bowl eligibility, but it's just like, they didn't play well. I mean, their leading rusher got 25 yards, and they didn't do great, obviously. I mean, look at the scoreboard. They didn't do great. It's a stupid thing, but it's just like, they got outgained, not crazy amounts of yards actually in this game, because Minnesota had 133, then Iowa got 274. It's inexcusable to be that far away, but it's not like a crazy gap. But I mean, like, rush yards, 133 to 24. That's where it's like, are you kidding me? Because you look at Minnesota's rushing, and their top guy, Xavier Ford, he got 25 yards, and then a couple other guys got like 17, 6, but then Drake Lindsey, the quarterback, because they factor in sacks, and he lost 29 yards. So the 25 yards that Xavier Ford got is what's keeping them in the stat book. Like, it could have been 0. It's wild. I mean, crazy. I mean, you just look through like the box score of like every time where it's just like Mark Gronowski rushed for 2 yards, Drew Stevens extra point, and the field goal, pass intercepted for a touchdown, touchdown, point after, and then the return, and it's just like all of a sudden you score and score and score, and then you're like, oh, is that the full game? That's not even, there's still 10 minutes to go in the second quarter. And I was at 31 points. I was at 31 points. I honestly can't believe it. Iowa. Our Iowa Hawkeyes. Now, don't want to get too ahead of myself, obviously. And I don't want to say we have a chance, or if we played Ohio State or Indiana, we wouldn't get killed, or even Oregon for that matter. Who really knows? But all I'm saying is we're sitting at 4 in the Big Ten. And 2 of the teams that are around us is the team right above us in Oregon and the team a couple spots down in USC. If we win both of those games and don't slip up, there's a good argument to be made that Iowa gets into the playoff at 10-2. Because if you look, I mean, what is our resume looking like? Well, blew out Albany, which isn't crazy, but we did win, right? And then lost close to Iowa State. Sucks that Iowa State keeps losing. They keep making that look worse and worse. Thanks a lot, Iowa State. And then blew out UMass. Beat Rutgers on the road by 10, which I know doesn't look as impressive. Rutgers did just get a Big Ten win, where I know going into this one, everyone was saying, yeah, Iowa hasn't beaten a team that has a Big Ten win. It was like, oh, that kind of sucks, but we have done now. And then some of the teams that we had beaten now have a Big Ten win, so that's good that they're not going to keep saying that. It is valid, but, but losing close to Indiana, I think, is the best indicator that this team is good. And if you say Indiana's a good competitor for a national championship, you have to say Iowa has a chance at a playoff, because we really should have had Indiana. Had them on the ropes, missed a field goal that would have taken the lead. We hit a field goal in the fourth quarter that took the lead, and then Indiana took it back with a field goal. Then we had a chance and missed it. Had another chance with our backup. Honestly, if Gronowski doesn't get hurt, I think Iowa maybe wins that game. I mean, that touchdown late, Iowa's momentum on the defensive side was just so killed, because we just got a pick that should have determined the game, and you guys are gonna sell us out like this. It's you feel kind of bad for the defense there, but all of a sudden the offense is really taking off, and honestly, Gronowski just needs to get healthier. But Indiana, their defense was really good, it really was. So even though you say Iowa's offense didn't play great, but you look across the board, what are we dropping? 34, and then 16, not great, but then 47, 38. 15 on the number 2 team in the country, which it's 13, but whatever. 37, 25, 41. It's we're actually putting up points, especially in the last 3 games. You start to think, can Iowa give Oregon a run for their money? Especially it's number 6 Oregon. And we'll see if it ends up being a night game. We'll see what uniforms Iowa ends up wearing. We'll see if they do another blackout, which they just did. We'll see what they end up doing for that game. But Oregon is good in road environments. They won in the whiteout at Penn State, but they barely won in overtime. And now all of a sudden Penn State is not great. Iowa also barely beat Penn State, so if you look at that common opponent, and you could also say it was more impressive for Oregon to beat Penn State when they did, because of how, Penn State was actually pretty respected at that time, and maybe you say they were better than they were then when we played them. But at least we won. Honestly, that's what's so crazy, is that we really should have lost to Penn State. And maybe you don't say we should have lost, but we should have won by a lot more, right? And all of the mistakes, all of the silly mistakes we made during that game should have cost us the game. And somehow they didn't, through the heroics of Gronowski. The heroics of Gronowski really shine in the Rutgers game, too. Down 4, he goes onto the field, goes down and scores a touchdown. Defense gets a pick, he goes down and scores a touchdown again. All of a sudden, we win by 10. We were just down by 14. We were just down by 4. And then all of a sudden, you score 14. In the fourth quarter, it's just Iowa. It's very interesting. There's something going on in Iowa City. There really is. And, Minnesota, what do you say? You really don't know what to say about Minnesota. That's what we said about Nebraska. They finally get ranked, and then you go, man, what do you say? They just get killed by Minnesota the second they get that number. Honestly, Nebraska really just can't handle that number. So, I don't know. It was a clear trap game, obviously, but it's just Minnesota. I don't know. I don't understand. And they really didn't come. They really didn't want Floyd. We wanted Floyd. We wanted to keep Floyd Roysdale. You could see in the game we really wanted to keep him. And you can see, as evidenced by the final score, we just wanted it way more. And I think we are the better team, but there's no excuse for the limited amount of heart that Minnesota showed, the limited amount of effort, just minimalistic from Minnesota, just the absolute minimum. You put up 3 points, then maybe you say, okay, Iowa's really good, their offense really good, their defense, special teams, and that's great. I'd like to believe that as well. But the lack of effort from Minnesota, 3 points, and regardless if you want to say, man, Iowa's a great team, I think they are, but it's just to embarrass them that much, it's just how good are we, or is Minnesota somehow really bad? Minnesota hadn't been terrible. They just blew out Nebraska, who's ranked. Nebraska's only loss outside of that was Michigan, I believe. Nebraska hasn't been terrible. They just got a good win against Northwestern last week. They're 5-2, or whatever they are now, something like that. Where it's just It doesn't make sense. Where did this come from for Minnesota? Or we're just actually secretly an elite team and a national championship contender? Now, I wouldn't say that, but it's just like, I don't know. Because Minnesota, they're a really interesting one. Because they barely beat teams like Buffalo, and then they blew out Northwestern State, and then like they got kind of killed by Cal on the road. But then they barely beat Rutgers, but we also beat Rutgers, barely. So it's just like you can't even, And then they got blown out by Ohio State. That's the thing. They got blown out by Ohio State 42-3. It's just like, okay, that's number 1 Ohio State. They're going to do that to teams, that's fine. But how do you let us do the exact same thing? Because I know we're not better than Ohio State. Or are we able to play to that level? We're no longer playing to the level of our opponents. I think that's the big thing. Now, we kind of did against Penn State, but you look at the Wisconsin game, the Minnesota game. Iowa likes to play to the level of their opponents no matter who it is, no matter how good, bad, mid. We end up kind of playing similar, and then maybe we end up winning a lot of them, but very narrowly, and it never feels in hand too much. Where it's just like, Iowa, like, we don't do this as a team. We're not Ohio State. We don't win 42-3 against you. Against Minnesota. Like, we're not the type of team to do that. In fact, we'll play close with you. We lost to you a few years ago. That was bullcrap, by the way. That was definitely not a fair catch, but we did lose in the stat book. So it's just like, the fact that we don't do this to teams, and we did the exact same thing to Iowa, the exact same thing to Minnesota that Ohio State did is crazy. And Minnesota, they beat Purdue by a touchdown as well. And then, just that's the crazy outlier. Maybe it's just an outlier beating Nebraska because maybe you say to Rutgers, but we also barely beat Rutgers. But maybe you say that's before we found our identity and kind of figured things out. But that wasn't a terrible game. Rutgers just got their first win, or in their first Big Ten win. So it just kind of feels like one of those situations like what we just did to Wisconsin, where we won 37-0. We were like, man, like, are we really good, or is Wisconsin just truly so bad? Where it's just like, now that it happened again to a team that's beaten a lot of Big Ten teams and had just blown out a ranked Nebraska team, and we did the same thing to them, like, do you ask that same question of, are they just really bad, or are we just really good, or do you just go, you know what, Iowa's actually really good this year? I would like to think so. That's what I'd like to think, and we'll see when we get into our schedule, because we're conquering a lot of our schedule, because we were struggling, and you had heard me a couple weeks ago where I was talking about our path to bowl eligibility and the games we really needed to win, and I was like, Wisconsin, we can't trip up here. We got to make that push to bowl eligibility, but it's like we somehow beat Penn State when we did everything to lose it, and then Minnesota, now all of a sudden we're 6-2. We're not talking about bowl eligibility anymore. That's what's so awesome now. We're not talking about bowl eligibility. We're talking about a possible berth in a Big Ten championship. Now, do I think that'll happen? Probably not. We need to win out against some tough teams. Hosting number 6 Oregon is going to be brutal. Going to Southern Cal and having to face USC, who's number 23rd in the country. But then I feel like it kind of cleans up where I feel like we have the ability to beat Michigan State at home. And then on the road at Nebraska, we just dominated a team that just dominated them. I think we could win that one. So I feel like the floor on these 4 games might be 8. But the way that we're playing and the way Oregon has looked suspect, like, we looked infinitely better than Indiana than Oregon did. And we both played at home, so you can't even say, Iowa played at Kinnick. Well, so did they. But if you want to say, Iowa, that's home field advantage, a lot better than Oregon, so that's kind of inflated. Well, guess where we play Oregon? At Kinnick Stadium. So that's going to be wild. So I'll end up previewing that one later in the week. But honestly, this Minnesota game is just so huge. And the fact that we were able to do this and dominate, like, that team is going to come with so much fire against Oregon, I think. And I know we really wanted Floyd, but I hope we still really want it when we play next week. Because, Minnesota clearly didn't want Floyd. Or did we just want it so much? Are we elite? Are we elite? Let's see what kind of bowl game we get into. Because all of a sudden, we're already bowling. We could lose out. It is October, and we could lose out and we'd still be bowling. That's awesome. That's a great sentence to say. Iowa is really on the rise, and we're really starting to put things together. And I feel like we kind of struggled early where I felt like we didn't use the Albany game that great and end up losing to Iowa State very, very close. But then we dominate UMass and then beat Rutgers tight and then barely lose to the number 2 team in the country and then dominate Wisconsin and then find a way to beat Penn State, which I know they had lost their quarterback and their head coach, but they still have a lot of talent on that team. The amount of money that's put into that. So it's just like to win that game is still huge. And I know we should have won it by more, but, whatever. I'm not that upset about it because it's a W in the column. That's all I care about. And then Minnesota absolutely disheveled. So, I don't know. Iowa's looking pretty good, and we're definitely on the up. And we'll have to see when we get into some of these tough games, because I think about like 2 out of 4, maybe 3 out of 4, because the rivalry with Nebraska is going to be sticky. So this is really huge. And I mean, our Iowa Hawkeyes have a chance to possibly make the playoff. I mean, I don't know. I feel like I'm getting ahead of myself, but I'm trying to say, like, I don't know. We'll see what happens. But it's just like, we could go 10-2. We could legitimately go 10-2, and it's just about, if that team that dominated Minnesota shows up the rest of the year, it's a really great possibility that the Iowa Hawkeyes end up doing some really great things in January. This is the Ben Buzz. I'm Benny King, and thanks for listening to Hawkeye State of Mind.